Rangers fans, welcome to Liberty Blue, the essential New York Rangers podcast. I'm Andrew Chonley, alongside Nick Zararis. And Nick, they shut out Calgary. They won a wild game against Montreal, and somehow, someway, managed to crawl back from a 5-3 deficit against the Islanders at MetLife Stadium, and they now ride a 7-game win streak.
They had no business winning that game yesterday.
No.
I turned to my girlfriend's dad at the end of the second period, and I said, "We are sitting at 4-3, and it feels like we're losing this game 6-1." Like, genuinely, at 4-3, it felt like if the Islanders scored next, that would be the game. And at 5-3, I thought at 5-3. And then when Trocheck got that roughing penalty after the whistle, I thought, all right, that's the game. They made the scoreboard look a little more respectable. They're going to go out, but they can't get out of you can't give up. It's one of those things where it doesn't make sense that a team can play as badly as they did in the first period. They got 90%ed in expected goals in the first period by a bad team. Let's not forget the Islanders are in 6th place in the Metro and like 5 points out of a playoff spot. Let's not forget the Islanders are actively bad, and the Rangers made them look like the 1980 Soviet Olympic team. And out of nowhere, slowly but surely.
And similarly to that team, they lost.
Vinny Meatballs got in the mix.
That's right.
Panarin was outstanding yesterday. Panarin's willingness this year to just say, fuck it, I will do it myself, is the only reason that this team works. If anybody else in this forward group had a little bit more of that in them, I think we'd be thinking about this team very differently. But Panarin, man, when he gets the puck on his stick and skates through the neutral zone, creates that entry, it gives space to the other forwards he's out there with, like Trocheck and Lafreniere. Those guys have a little bit more room, and it makes everybody all the more dangerous. And this is something I wanted to highlight and I wanted to talk about. I thought Laviolette had a really good game yesterday. I think he made some gut calls that were risky, very, very risky, to pull the goalie to go to the 5-on-3 with 5 minutes to go. That was an extremely risky decision, and it worked out, so he looked smart for that. And the other thing, using the timeout at 3-1. I think
something that Gallant never did. He never
Yes,
used to do that. He never used to stop the snowball. Laviolette stopped the snowball.
It got out of hand really quick there in the first period. Those goals the Islanders scored, clunky, ugly. The Barzal goal, somebody needed to step up, and instead Trouba just kind of looked at him, and Lindgren just looked at him. And I understand they were in the middle of a change, and those weren't supposed to be the two defensemen on together, but they just didn't communicate with each other, and Barzal is a great player. That is a game that I think if something special happens down the road, people will look back and circle to that game, the Carolina game where Hedel and Fox got hurt back in November. We've had a handful of those types of games now where you see the potential for something special, even though they make you want to rip your hair out for long stretches of these games. I do not understand how the same team that got 90% expected goal in the first period is also the same team that scored 2 goals in 5 minutes and then won the game the first 50 seconds of overtime. It really defies logic at times how they play.
I was talking to an Islanders friend of mine, and we came to similar conclusions about our team, just in opposite ends of the spectrum, where the Rangers don't show up for like 85% of the game, but that 15%, they look really good and they just somehow find a way to win. Meanwhile, the Islanders will show up for 85% of the game, and then they let loose, and then they get dumpstered the final 15% and lose. This is such a duality of man situation. We're like at 5-on, and that was a source of my Zibanejad tweet yesterday, and people got mad. People got on me about it after Zibanejad scored the power play goal. But at 5-on-5, it is once again a no show from number 93, and it took Panarin. It took other guys to step up and deliver. And yeah, Zibanejad got the power play goal to tie the game up, but it's not like he created the offense that led to the goal. Adam Fox with a gorgeous pass just on the tape. Zibanejad, nice shot. It goes in that tie game. But again, at 5-on-5, this team is Panarin. This team is Lafreniere. The third line was pretty all right. Matt Rempe destroyed Matt Martin. I mean, listen, if it's your first, he didn't even get a shift. He was on the ice. The puck didn't even drop yet. 0 TOI for Matt Rempe, and he fights Matt Martin.
5 PIMs.
and he destroys him. I mean, Matt Martin, I listen, I get it. He's not the Matt Martin that he used to be in on Long Island, I should say. But like this man has yet to literally see 1 second of recorded ice time in the NHL, and he beats you to a pulp. Brother, it is time to go. It is time to go, Mr. Martin. Listen, that's a tough look for him. But like a lot of players step up to Trocheck with a great cup, a great game last night. It's really bothering me that the Rangers are winning games, are playing well, but at the end of the day, can you count on this team to produce more at 5-on-5? Like it's really tough to harp on this when they've won 7 in a row and they keep winning, but it's how they're winning games. Like the Montreal game was a track meet. The Islanders game was a track meet, even though it shouldn't have been. Like they're playing this really gambly style of hockey that, yeah, it's working for them now because they've won 7 in a row, but a puck bounce the wrong way and, or a post or what have you. And we're talking about not a 7-game winning streak.
So I think the way I would unpack that, and Trocheck said it after the game, and I think it was Kreider, but it might have been Trouba. Trocheck said even at 4-1, they still felt like they were in the game and that they weren't playing that badly. I would disagree about playing badly. They were actively playing badly in the game. To be losing 4-1 to a team not in a playoff spot, by definition, you are playing poorly. What I will say is I think their confidence in their game and their comfort in who they are as a team both works to their advantage and works to their detriment, because we've talked a lot about them being able to get off to good starts and putting the game out of reach and finishing things up early. But the counterpoint to that is it's great you feel good about your team and that you never feel like you're out of it. But the Rangers run into the issue of you only have so much time left in the game, and not every team you're going to play is going to give you 2 Scott Mayfield penalties in a 5-minute span. That's the thing that's concerning about this. It's not that the Rangers aren't good. It's that they are so confident in their ability to be good, they think they can get themselves out of any predicament they want because of how good they are. And against most teams, they have, I think, 19 come from behind victories this year. Against most teams, the Rangers are going to be able to get by on their talent and fall back on some structure things. And at the end of the day, you would like your star players, and Panarin had a really good game, in my opinion, yesterday. I thought Adam Fox really got into a nice rhythm there as the game went along, and the Rangers did a good job of tilting the ice. But it is a dangerous game to play, and that's really been what's come into focus for me over the last month or so. It's not that they're not good; it's that they play this dangerous style because against most teams they can make something happen. This won't work against the good teams of the league. God bless Scott Mayfield. God bless the Islanders for laying an egg and giving that game away yesterday. Rangers had no business winning that game.
No, and you have to think about it this way too. The Islanders literally threw that game away. They took a loss from the jaws of victory. That is not going to happen in the playoffs. It's not. That's the kind of game where if the Rangers play the exact same way in any playoff scenario, they lose. Yeah. They lose. Because they're playing a better team that isn't going to take egregious penalties in the last 5 minutes of a hockey game when they're up 2 goals and essentially let the Rangers waltz back in and into the game and then win. Like in the playoffs, these scenarios are just not going to happen. So if you're again relying on your power play, which was miserable coming into that game last night, and then they scored a bunch of power play goals. They, hopefully that's been fixed, or at least is on the process of being fixed moving forward. But you are once again relying on the referees to essentially give you the key to open the door instead of having the door be pried open by yourself. You are waiting around and expecting somebody to let you in. That's the part that bothers me more than anything. And again, it's like, I don't want to be overly negative. The team has won 7 in a row. Despite all these problems, they're still winning. A lot of players are playing well, etc. Shesterkin did not have a great game last night, but he played better as the game went on. But this is still a team that relies on certain aspects too much, especially on their power play. They don't put a whole lot of pressure on it 5-on-5. There are certain players that do that, but the team doesn't overall. And that's going to be a problem come the playoffs once again, because referees, one, swallow their whistles, and two,
that's not true, though. Dom at The Athletic did a study about that last year. The difference between penalty calls in the playoffs and the regular season is negligible. We're talking about like 0.02 per game less in the playoffs. Even I get your point.
Even then, we talked about this last year in the playoffs. Even strength play is like 85% of an actual hockey game. You cannot rely on 15% to win you 100% of the game. It is unsustainable, unreliable, and eventually it's going to come back and bite you.
The Rangers are at a point now where they're going to make the playoffs. They are going to be pushing for the number 1 seed in the Metro so they can host one of the wild card teams in the first round. They are going to add at some point to this team in the next few weeks. They are going to add wings, especially, and we'll touch on Blake Wheeler in a little bit, but especially now that Blake Wheeler's out for the year, we're talking about a team that has 2 NHL caliber right wingers on it right now in Kakko and Vesey. I was a little disappointed Vesey got gypped from playing on the first line for a good stretch of that game, and Gaudreau, for some god-awful reason, got up there. But at the very least, they are a good enough team to get in. That has never been in doubt. And if they didn't get in, that was going to be the impetus for large whole-scale change, something that the Rangers probably wouldn't have the conviction to do, but that's not really the point. And it feels stupid to harp on, this didn't work in a game where they beat a division rival and pulled one out of their ass. And yeah, some of this is losing the forest for the trees, but the counterpoint to that, and why I would say this isn't necessarily negative, it's that we are looking at the ramp up here. We got 3 weeks till the trade deadline. We're talking about the Rangers have 20-ish games to go rest of the way here. They are going to need to integrate at least 1, if not 2 forwards into their top 9 over the course of the next 25 to 27 games. I would argue they might need to bring in a defenseman as well, and we can have that conversation later on. But as we start ramping up, getting into that playoff mentality, well, we're going to play the Islanders 2 more times. We play the Devils 2 more times. We got to play Pittsburgh 3 times. And I know Pittsburgh's not good, but whenever the Rangers and Penguins get together, the Penguins will get up for that game. The Rangers are at a point now where it is about setting themselves up for success down the road. That means to go deep into the playoffs. That means having good habits established by the time we get to game 1, round 1. And through long stretches of that first period, it was the same old issues. It was forcing passes to the middle where nobody was there, inviting the Islanders, who are not a great defensive team, to get easy defensive plays. The Rangers are lucky Panarin was able to make some stuff happen yesterday, because he was the only one for a good, I would say, the first 30 minutes of that game who was actively trying to make something happen. Zibanejad and Kreider were rendered pretty ineffective for early stretches of the game. And God bless the Islanders penalty kill being as bad as it is, or this is a very different podcast today. I mean, I forgot who said it, but it was game 55 for the Rangers yesterday, but it's always game 7 for the Islanders when they get up for the Rangers. I know that's supposed to be like the Islanders.
I think that was Carp.
It might have been. The entire point, the reason I don't like doing that little brother and like we own you bullshit is the Islanders beat the Rangers consistently. Since 2014, the Islanders are 25-11-4 against the Rangers. And since the Rangers signed Panarin, the Islanders are 17-11-4 against the Rangers. So it's not like we're better than them. I understand the Rangers have had more success more recently. The Islanders, they went to 2 conference finals like 4 years ago now, but we got to get up for these games, man. It was 4-1 at the end of the set. It was 4-1 early on in that game. And I was looking around like, did they know we were playing a hockey game today? Did they go deaf on the fire truck on the way into the game and they don't know how to play hockey anymore? It's mind boggling, because they're capable of being better than this, but then they look like they've never seen each other before. Like that was the first time any of these guys had ever played hockey with each other. And Shesterkin had a rough game again, not entirely his fault, but I understand a lot of people will be like, well, all the goals were scored in the one end of the ice because the sun was down there. And yeah, I get it. But when you need him to get going, and I do think Shesterkin is still the most important player on this team as far as reaching its full potential.
Yeah.
If they can't get him going, the playoffs are going to be the most miserable experience of all of our lives. This team is not built to score 6-7 goals a game. We're not that good at offense. We're not.
No, and you mentioned the guys like looking like they never met each other before. Can we like at a certain point, Trouba and Miller, something has to give. Something has to give. This is so excruciatingly painful at this point. Watching them game in and game out, have not a single clue of what's going on like with their defensive partners. It is insanity. It is so infuriating. Every single game, whether Miller is pinching and Trouba is in no man's land, or Trouba and Miller just aren't communicating. Trouba is out somewhere and Miller's not talking to Trouba or what have you, whatever's going on. It just seems like every game there is some kind of miscommunication. They don't know where each other are. They don't know how to play with each other. And yet they keep forcing that pairing, and something has to change. Something has to give. Either, Trouba and Miller concede 9 goals one game, like just all the Rangers give up 9 goals and all 9 goals are because of those two, then maybe there'll be changes. But like I don't know what else Laviolette and the coaching staff has to see in order to force the change. I understand Trouba and Miller want to play together. I get all that. But at the end of the day, it's not working. It hasn't worked for years. And yet they continue to force the issue with it. And it really gets it grinds my gears how they just don't know how to play with each other at all on the ice. They are inconsistent at best. They can't there's so many plays that go by them a lot of the time because they're not communicating together. It's a mess. And again, I'm being loud in a moment in time when the Rangers have won 7 in a row. And it looks a little silly, but the fact of the matter is that they've won 7 in a row, but it's not like the problems have went away. The same problems we've been talking about for 2 years now on this show are the same problems that they had yesterday. They just happened to win.
And that ties into something we talked about the first week of January, I believe was the episode where we talked about the idea that because the Rangers weren't doing a ton at 5-on-5, that they were really going to be defined, and a lot of their wins and losses would ultimately come from whether they get the bounces any given night. A lot of people have made a lot of talk about Vancouver and riding the PDO roller coaster all season, and they've been so good, they've been able to buck a lot of those trends.
As they lose, 10-7 it was today?
Yeah, I was going to say, they conceded 10 goals to Minnesota, 2 wild guys had hat tricks, but the Rangers are in the same kind of boat, where if Shesterkin's not on his game, they're going to have a really hard time winning most nights. If they don't get at least 1 power play goal, they're going to have a hard time winning most nights. And I know people will say, those are parts of the team. Why are you discounting those parts of the team? It's that they're more inconsistent. They are smaller segments of the game. The Rangers are not dictating large stretches of these games. Now, when they've played at their best, and we should give credit where it's due, that last 5 minutes is probably the best hockey they've played all season.
Yeah.
Down 2 goals, they pushed it all on the Islanders and forced the Islanders to play defense. They moved their feet. They cycled the puck extremely well. They did a nice job of incorporating Lafreniere in the open net situation. I'm very happy that Lafreniere continues to be one of the first choices to be the extra attacker late in games. It is clear he is playing with more confidence than he's basically ever had at any point. And the coaching staff is both getting rewarded and rewarding him for that. So now we're at a point where it is about ironing out the kinks and figuring out who's getting added to this group. The Rangers are probably going to need to call up a defenseman as well. I know Ryan Lindgren took a stick to the eye, and that looked really gnarly. There's no indication whether or not he's going to be able to play tomorrow against Dallas. I doubt he's going to be. I doubt he's going to be able to play tomorrow, so we'll probably see Zach Jones draw back in. I know Hartford has injury issues of their own, so I don't know if they're in a position where they can send someone up. If I remember correctly, both Hartford and the Rangers only have 6 healthy defensemen at the moment. So this might be a situation where somebody has to get called up from the ECHL to Hartford and someone from Hartford gets bumped up here just to be the extra defenseman in case something happens during warmups. But the Rangers are in a position now where it is about getting ready for the postseason. And the next part of this conversation is, what are they going to add at the deadline? Because that's the most important topic right now.
Well, I guess the ideal right now would be Jordan Eberle out of Seattle. That's kind of the biggest name that makes the most sense.
That's my first choice.
Like, you take a look at their biggest needs. They need a 3C, sure, but they need a 1 right winger more. In terms of the things that the Rangers need the most, at the top of the list is a right winger to play on the first line that could drive 5-on-5 offense. And Jordan Eberle is a player of that caliber that is, 1, available or should be available, and 2, is capable of doing that. And that right now should be the Rangers' biggest target right now. Maybe there's some secret surprise names that we haven't thought about or what have you. It's still a few weeks away from the deadline, so we'll see about that. But his underlying metrics are good on a really bad and inconsistent Seattle team. To have numbers that are as positive as Jordan Eberle is something that I value a lot, and something that hopefully the Rangers will take a look at. I don't know if they will, because analytics are scary to hockey men, but we'll see how that goes. But overall, that's the biggest need. Obviously, they need more, a third line center. They need another 12th forward. They need another defenseman. Like, there's holes along the way, but that top line right winger spot, especially, listen, Blake Wheeler was never going to be the permanent first line right winger, and they were using him as essentially a placeholder up there. But now that he's potentially out for the whole season, that was a gruesome injury, a scary injury. Hopefully he's okay. Forget about hockey for a second. Like, that kind of injury is really scary. And that's something that could linger for a long time. So hopefully he's okay, or he will be okay. But that's really the biggest hole right now. If they can find somebody, if the Rangers can find somebody like Eberle or an adjacent that can really help drive the 5-on-5 offense, now we're talking about a different line. Because we could talk about that. We say this every single week, but that first line doesn't do anything at 5-on-5. If they can bring somebody in to at least make the numbers a little bit better, if they can bring in this mystery player that can actually do some things at 5-on-5 to help out Zibanejad and Kreider and really push the agenda that way, now we're cooking. Until that happens, the team is what it is.
And circling back around, I brought up Laviolette before, but I'll bring it up again. Another thing I've liked that he's done over the last few weeks, and this speaks to the fact that they're kind of they don't have options at right wing, really, is when they have been up against it late in games and they've needed a goal, they've bumped Panarin to play up there with Zibanejad and Kreider. And we know that's not a feasible long-term strategy, but in a pinch, I feel better about Laviolette's willingness to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, as opposed to... And that's not to say Gallant didn't do that. If anything, he did that too much, where he was experimenting and changing lines and pairs way too often just to try and get anything going. But I think in terms of the usage and the way they're thinking about their lineup, they seem pretty good about wanting to use Zibanejad, Kreider against other teams' best guys, especially in games that are a little bit tighter. I don't think the Rangers can do... I know there was a little bit of conjecture over the weekend about are Edstrom or Rempe going to stick. I don't think Rempe sticks. Edstrom might stick, but I forget who brought it up, but I know it for a fact. It's only Vegas had one, Colorado had one, and I want to say Tampa Bay the second time only had one as well. Teams that win the Stanley Cup don't have rookies in the lineup because coaches are stubborn and stupid. And maybe the Rangers can be the team that wins the Stanley Cup with 2 or 3 rookies in the lineup. But I don't think it's feasible to say we're going to go into the playoffs with our fourth line being Gaudreau, Edstrom, and Vesey. I don't. I think they really need to emphasize getting a real fourth line center. Or excuse me, I should say a third line center, bumping Brodzinski down to 4th C. And then, we get into a place where the Rangers have a deep reservations about this group stem from the path they're going to have to take in the playoffs. It's not that I don't think there's anybody in the East that's like insanely better than them, but Florida's guys are better. Florida's best players are better. The Bruins look like they're kind of in a lull, but I don't take the Bruins lightly. The Leafs are kind of a mess. The Devils may or may not be getting things back together. But when we start gaming this out, start laying out what the roadmap of the next few weeks to months looks like, we got a long way to go, and there are still quite a few things the Rangers need to iron out.
That and okay, even throw out the Eastern Conference for a second. Like, let's say for the purpose of this exercise, if the Rangers make the final, they're gonna play a team. Oh,
Andrew, we can't even go to the final. That's so far away.
But just hear me out for a second. Like, let's just for this exercise, like, let's say they make the final. That now they're playing a team like Vancouver. They're playing a team like Vegas, who Vegas destroyed the Rangers both times they played this season. They're playing a team like Dallas or Colorado or even Winnipeg. These are teams that control 5-on-5 action. These are teams that can punish you for not punishing them, and they do it consistently and they do it often. So okay, let's say the Rangers get all the way there and they play one of these teams. Okay, well, if you haven't been able to control 5-on-5 play against teams that aren't as good at 5-on-5 themselves, how on earth are you going to do that against teams that make that their bread and butter? That's another question that you have to ask yourself again, because 5-on-5 play is the vast majority of the hockey game. We talk about it every single week we're on the show. Power plays are given out. They are unpredictable. You don't know when you're going to get them and how often you're going to get them. They are out of your control. And you still have to score on them, even if you get them. It's not like it's a guarantee goal. You still have to do things in order to put the puck in the net to make that happen. So the Rangers have to find somehow, some way to get this 5-on-5 play going, because the last 5 minutes against the Islanders look good. Islanders threw that game, really, but against a better team, that game just ends up in a loss.
I will say, there is an element where you're going to have to accept there are some things about the group that they're not going to be able to fix. I don't think they are going to magically be able to get these guys who have played this particular way their entire lives to adapt. I will say, I think there is a world where they get the right winger in there that opens up some more opportunities. But I still think the biggest barrier for this Rangers team right now is that Zibanejad is not shooting enough. I think the fact he has fewer scoring chances per game than some of the defensemen on the team, because he himself is just not shooting the puck.
And when his shot selection from isn't from great areas either. It's not like he's getting prime time scoring chances out in front, like right in front of the goaltender, and not doing anything with it. Like the shots that he's getting, a lot of times, if they're not one-timer crisp passes on the power play, the shots aren't that great either.
No, he's not getting to particularly dangerous areas because he's not really pushing the net front. It's more he's settling for whatever the defense is going to give him. And yeah, sometimes you're going to have to take a crappy shot. There's just only so much you can get. But what I will say is this is a mentality thing. This is something that we can convince him. The coaching staff can convince him, hey, if you want to open up more things offensively, you're going to have to shoot more. It's just, look how much different Panarin is playing this year. He is shooting the puck more than any other season in his career as a professional hockey player. He's already in the low 30s for goals, and we're only in February.
Yeah.
He's going to have an outside chance of pushing 50 for the season if he keeps playing at the pace he is at.
Yeah.
They get Zibanejad shooting a little bit more. And I know he's like 18, 19 goals on the season, which none to sneeze at. He's going to be close to a point per game player. If he gets hot at the right time, he can easily clear a point per game. It is about mentality. Zibanejad needs to shoot more because it will open up more things for the offense, and it will make whoever they bring in to be the right winger with them and Kreider's life a lot easier. Kreider, when he wants to be engaged, is really a imposing force. He can get the puck to dangerous areas. He can drive the goalie. He had a solid game on Sunday. I didn't think he was great, but he was involved enough. He made some stuff happen, the redirection. That stuff's awesome. But for this team to get where they need to go, we need an adjustment in mindset. It's really that simple. It's not we're going to change who they are as players, but Zibanejad's got to rip it.
Yeah. And again, we mentioned this. I mentioned this about Trouba, before. The number one thing I want on this planet is for us to stop talking about Zibanejad. Like, I want Zibanejad to wake up tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to be a dominant 5-on-5 player, and then he's going to be a superstar at all fronts of the game. I would love that. Like, it's not fun to sit here after their team wins their 7th game in a row to be like, oh, well, Zibanejad, again, at 5-on-5 isn't doing anything. Like, eventually, like, when is this going to change? It's not fun to talk about these things. I would much rather be like, Zibanejad is having an awesome season. Like, he's point-a-game player. 5-on-5, he's driving offense. He's playing defense really well. A great two-way player. I would love to say that instead. But as of right now, Zibanejad is doing great things on the power play, and he's nothing to sneeze at defensively. But at 5-on-5 offensively, he is doing and creating nada. Nothing.
He has... So I pulled it up while you were talking. He is generating 10.6 individual scoring chances. Those are just him, not his line mates, not who he's on the ice with. That is 17th of everybody on the Rangers. That is fewer individual scoring chances than Eric Gustafsson, Tyler Pitlick, Capo Caco, Blake Wheeler, Jimmy Vesey, Jacob Trouba, Will Cooley, Vincent Trocheck, Filipino, Kreider, Lafreniere, Brodzinski, Panarin, and we're talking about somebody who is supposed to be one of, if not the best forwards on this team. And if he's not going to shoot, that is going to make the line less dangerous because teams will not respect when he gets the puck because they know he's going to be looking to pass. And that's really been the issue with him. So I want to change gears here and transition topics a little bit. As far as where the NHL is at with these outdoor games, I think one of the big issues is the games themselves are more about the in-person experience as opposed to the television viewing experience. And I think that's why there's a lot of real fatigue from non-involved teams. Because frankly, there's 32 teams in the league, but the same 15 keep getting put in the outdoor games.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a real solution to the outdoor game fatigue, but I'll tell you as somebody who was there, that was a great environment to be in. It seems like half of New York State was in the MetLife Stadium parking lot from about 10 a.m. on. It was a sea of humanity. It was a preposterous amount of people, and it was infinitely more engaging of an environment than anything I've had at Madison Square Garden that wasn't a playoff game. MSG during the playoffs, very different, a little more charged up. The games mean more. But regular season-wise, that's about as most intense an environment I've been in. And that was in part because the game was very chaotic and there was a lot going on. But that crowd was lively on Sunday afternoon.
No, it was a lot of fun. And I just wish Bettman would stop giving games to Chicago. Like, Chicago doesn't need another outdoor game, Gary. Give other teams outdoor games, Gary. Please, Gary. We're on our knees at this Walmart, Gary. Like, and I know Columbus and Detroit got an outdoor game, and that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be fun. Give Vegas an outdoor game. Give Seattle an outdoor game. Like, give other teams outdoor games because the whole.
To be fair, Andrew, those two teams did play outside this year.
Do it again. I would rather give them more outdoor games than see Chicago out there for the 900th time. Like, give the Panthers an outdoor game. Like, give the Blues or just anybody other than Chicago. Like, even the Rangers have had 5. Like, yeah, they're 5-0 in these outdoor games. That's great for our needs personally.
We should play the playoffs outside. We should play all 7 games.
Why
every
not?
Series outside.
But the Stanley Cup final. Every game of the Stanley Cup final is outside. Can you imagine that?
Hey, at this point, one cup since America entered World War II. I'm ready to get weird. I'll try some shit.
Listen, they're undefeated outside. You might as well try it.
At the very least, it is about the experience of going. I do have one question for you as someone who watched on TV. Did they explain to you guys what the hell the people on the field with like the dog and the baby stroller and the people hula hooping were supposed to be?
So I mean, I was watching the game. I was also working because it was All-Star weekend in the NBA. So that was very hectic from all fronts. So I was watching. I didn't catch every single word of the broadcast. So I don't know. My best guess is paid actors, but that's
no. I was having that
I have no
conversation
idea.
with somebody because it was like, I don't want to say it was genuinely distracting because there was a hockey game going on.
Sure.
But out of the corner of my eye, seeing somebody hula hooping for 4 straight hours was a little distracting. I'm not going to lie. The corgi that was walking around on the grass, taking shits every few minutes was very amusing.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're having actors do stuff during play. Why are we distracting people at the game or on TV from what's going on during the game?
Yeah, I don't know.
Also,
AJR. Can we?
The NHL blew their budget for the Saturday game, Andrew.
Figure it out. Can we
Andrew,
figure it out?
The NHL blew their budget for the musical
I love the
guest on
Gaslight Anthem, and it's a really cool thing that the NHL brought them out to play, like to perform the goal song of the Devils, like as they were scoring. That's really cool. Hey, can we get somebody that's not AJR to come perform at these games?
Well, Andrew, you got to remember, the NHL blew a good chunk of their budget on the Gaslight Anthem and the Jonas Brothers on Saturday. There's a reason the second intermission was a tribute to New York hockey, which was just old people walking across the stage. They did not have the resources to do what you are suggesting. The NHL is a skinflint organization that does not like to spend money. I don't disagree with you.
I'm not asking for Jay-Z. I'm not asking for these people. I just want a musical act that's not AJR.
Do you think the Rangers would take dinner with Jay-Z or $100,000?
I think Dolan would take dinner with Jay-Z only because of the businessman that he is. I don't think James Dolan knows a single one of Jay-Z's songs, but I do know Dolan is I'm sure Dolan is very aware of Jay-Z's portfolio.
Okay, better question. Which player on the Rangers is taking the dinner with Jay-Z over $100,000? I think Lafreniere for sure.
I think most players will.
Yeah,
I think most players would.
$100,000 cash.
Yeah, I think most players will because again, because of Jay-Z's like business savvy, my man's is a billionaire, right? So like I don't now like. If you give me the question, I'm taking the money because I need the money. But these guys, I feel like they would say Jay-Z. What would you do? I feel I'm
taking $100,000.
Yeah,
I'm fucking poor.
Yeah.
This isn't a conversation.
Yeah.
$100,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, he's gonna say, "You're a dumbass. Why didn't you take the money?" When I sit down at the table to talk to him.
Exactly.
That's the counterpoint there. What was the other thing? Oh yeah. Sucks about Blake Wheeler. They definitely need to bring in a right winger.
Yeah.
The deadline, we are now at the point where everybody with an internet connection and that can load up Cap Friendly is going to start saying, well, this would make sense as a good fit, as if they are reporting news, as we know quite a few people like to do.
Sure.
Because frankly, nobody knows what's going on.
No,
that is
the graphic designers know more than the blue check marks. And it's still the most baffling thing about this whole experience, where Shams and Woj on the NBA side will know things weeks in advance and will have everything ready to go in their drafts. But the paid actors that are insiders in the NHL get beaten out by graphic designers. It is insane behavior.
I don't disagree with you. I will say nobody knows anything. So if you see trade speculation, that's great. Those are people doing content because they have ad space they need to sell. The people who are doing the blogs about this would make sense, or I'm hearing this. Hell, there's a reason Elliot, whenever he goes on 32 Thoughts, says, I've been thinking about, as opposed to phrasing it as I'm hearing.
Yeah.
There is a reason they use the language they do, because they are trying to be as obtuse and opaque as possible in all of reporting, so that if they're wrong, they can't be held accountable, or if they're right, they're not burning the source who told them what they did. But in the context of the Noah Hannafin stuff from over the weekend, that is your example. That news is only out there because either Hannafin's agent wants to get this moving, or the team that wants to acquire him wants to get this moving. That is not out there because the Flames want it out there. So whenever you see news about this player is available or this might work, you have to keep in mind that news is out there for a very specific reason. It is not out there because this person felt that it was their responsibility to tell this journalist so that it would get reported. It is purely out there for leverage.
It is that point of the season where the insiders will post a picture and then have googly eyes and then send tweet. It's that time of year, baby. We got, and also, what goes without saying, but make sure we're all following the right people and we're not following fake accounts, that we're not we're not getting got by fake accounts with 4 followers who have tweeted a fake trade, but you fell for it because the ad looks vaguely familiar to the actual person. Let's make sure we're on top of that, everybody, because hey, anybody can get got. Just make sure that we're retweeting the correct people once they get beaten by graphic designers, of course.
Yeah, I very much, I have a compilation of those from, I forget what trade was last week. There was some move last week that I saw the official team account tweet and then all the insiders tweeting their own version of it 30 seconds to a minute after, because they're not in the loop. They don't know what's going on. Last thing before we get out of here for this week's show, we are now at a point where they're going to play the Devils this week. They are going to play Dallas this week. Then they got Columbus, and then they got Florida, and then they got the Blues, and then they got the Devils again. So we're going to learn a lot about both the Devils and the Rangers in the next few weeks. And we're going to see if the Devils are going to push some chips in and maybe make something happen as far as a goalie or another defenseman. I think we're at a point now where I feel comfortable saying I'm ready to write the Islanders off completely. I think they just don't have it this year. I think Pittsburgh, we're pretty much at that point as well. I don't know what I should be worried about, but it feels like things are working out too well for the Rangers right now as far as everybody around them, other than Carolina. Carolina looks like their usual selves.
In terms of the division, yeah, Carolina is going to be a good team. Philadelphia is a strange team. I think they're ultimately probably going to sell a little bit. Like Lawton's is probably gone, even though I saw rumors should the Rangers be interested in Scott? No, he's not good at hockey. No, please, no. Literally anybody but him. Thank you very much, appreciate it. The Devils are another strange team where Joe Micheletti during the Flames game was yeah, the Devils were going to trade for him, and then he said no. Just very casually, he blurted that out in the middle of the broadcast, which was very interesting because, once again, he beats out the actual insiders to this information, and then the insiders will take that information, and then they will put that out there themselves. That's an interesting proposition because the Devils with an actual goaltender look like a scary team. As of right now, they are not a scary team because they do not have an actual goaltender. So it remains to be seen what happens with them. If they somehow find a way to get a goaltender before the deadline that will actually make them a playoff team, then they can do a lot of damage. That roster is really good. But right now, they've been playing inconsistent, but also their goaltenders aren't able to stop beach balls. So it's interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. Yeah, the Islanders aren't a very good team. Right now, the Penguins have fallen below the Caps in the standings.
Yeah.
That. And it's funny too, because Tristan Jarry has been phenomenal for them. Of all the things that you think would go wrong for Pittsburgh, their goaltending has been the least of their concerns. Jarry has been great. Crosby has been great. Gensel is out long term. He's on IR. Even Malkin's been pretty all right, but everybody else has kind of been not great, and they're banged up. And I don't know what Dubas does there. Yeah, the Caps don't scare me. Obviously, the Bruins the Bruins aren't playing well at all. They just wanted to shoot out against the Stars earlier today, but they're still a good team. Florida is a good team. Are you scared of Toronto? What a strange team.
I think the problem with Toronto is that they are very similar to the Rangers in that they rely on a handful of players to determine their games. Their goaltending situation is the main reason I would feel okay. I wouldn't feel great, obviously, about playing a team that has, 3 of the 15, 25 best players in the world.
Matthews is on a 73 goal pace or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Video game numbers.
He's different. Yeah, no, he's incredible. I know I saw the other day he has 80 written on the inside of his glove as like a joking. That's my goal for the rest of the season, to hit 80 goals. Let's get out of here on this. Good to see the Penguins finally retire Jágr's number.
Yeah.
I know they were waiting for him to retire from hockey, and being that he doesn't seem to want to do that, that's why they finally did it now. I think that's got to be the permanent move now, though. If you're getting your number retired, you got to take warm up with the team for that game, because that was genuinely a hilarious visual. Seeing 54-year-old Jaromir Jágr on the same ice as like 22-year-old Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Like, genuinely a funny visual, and I think it's a really interesting thing that I don't think I've ever seen anyone do before.
Yeah, I can't think of another example of that. And not only that, they leaned into it. They all wore mullets. They all wore the Jágr jersey. Like, that's cool. I want to see more of that. Like that. Yeah. That's a funny thing. It's a cool thing. It's great for social. Everybody's having fun. Like, at the end of the day, this is what this is. Yeah, hockey's it's a career, and there's a lot of money involved in it. All that. But it should be also fun. Like,
yes,
at the end of the day, especially, player or spectator, what have you, the game should be fun. So the fact that they did this, they leaned into it, like they had a lot of fun with it. They made jokes, like the whole thing was great. And I really hope that other teams lean into it. The one team that we know won't lean into it, though, is the Islanders, because they never lean into anything fun, because Lou's the GM over there. Like, they showing up to the outdoor game yesterday in suits and ties, acting like it's just another game and there's no fun involved. Give me a break, will you? Give me a break.
Missed opportunity. You know what they could have done if Lou really didn't want to do anything special? Back in the day when the teams used to issue suits that like had the logo on the chest, that would have been the middle ground between the two.
So do what CBS does?
Yeah,
just
basically.
give them the suits with the logo on it.
Yeah, that's what they used to do back in the day for road games. Was the team all got the suit with the logo on it? It's a middle ground. The Rangers had themselves some fun this weekend. They leaned into it a decent amount. Not very creative as far as theme, but it worked. It was effective. We're getting into the mix now. This is really where we're going to find out who this group is over the next couple weeks. And the deadline is going to be massively illuminating as far as understanding what the general manager thinks about this team. And I'm very excited to see what he thinks of this team.
The New York Rangers are genuinely such a silly team. They are the epitome. Yeah. They are the epitome of the "it's so over, we're so back" meme. Like, this is literally what the Rangers are. It's so over when it's 4-1 and they look like they have never played hockey before, and then they bring it back and they win overtime and we're so back, baby. It's like, what is happening? What is happening ever with this team?
Nothing good for my health. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
nothing good for my. I made the joke and I tweeted it as I was leaving the game yesterday. The Rangers are a college student with executive function issues that can only do work on deadline, and I think that's the most apt response possible, because they really feel like they're never out of these games, and like some of that is like just pure naivety and being stupid, but they really kind of aren't ever out of any of these games, even though they look like hot ass for good stretches of these games. It's really hard to get a feel for this team, and it's going to make the next few weeks and months very interesting as somebody on the outside looking in.
What a silly team this is, truly. But we're fans of it. We're fans of them, so here we are.
Look at the people on this team. We got genuine goofballs on this team.
I think Lafreniere is leading the league in goofy in silliness out of 60. I feel like
100%.
Easily.
He's in the top tier of guys. That's something I will think about. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Liberty Blue podcast. I am very hungry. I am going to get dinner. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you are over on YouTube, drop us a subscribe, like the video. We will be back next week, and we'll have a lot of hockey to discuss because they have 3 games this week.
Later.